Does the UK need a fleet of new nuclear reactors? We're here at Covent Garden to find out what the great British public thinks.
Nuclear power is a must. I think most of the world is going to turn to nuclear power. All the other fuels are running out, the sources are running out.
Why not just close all the nuclear and the fossil fuels and just have wind and wave?
It's deluding ourselves to think that you can generate enough power by alternative energy sources without something major like nuclear power. Nuclear power does actually deliver the goods in a big way.
I think if we could find alternative means, that would be preferable, to be honest. Whether it's natural energy or, wind power or anything like that, rather than using nuclear.
Nuclear is just going down a disastrous route, in my opinion, because I feel that we're just creating a huge amount of pollution, and the possibility for our future generations is just very irresponsible.
We don't hear enough about it, really, for anyone to have a decent view on it.
I think there should be more money spent on rejuvenating our natural sources in that kind of for power, not nuclear power.
I think of it as mostly a positive thing. I mean, there are obviously risks involved with it, but I think we have to weigh them with other factors as well. And I think overall nuclear energy seems like a better thing for the future.
I think there's a lot more information that could be released on subjects, because I mean I don't know very much. For example, I don't know what the impact of nuclear energy is actually having on the environment.
I don't know much about it. I think it should be communicated in a different way to people like me who don't know much about it.
I think it's difficulty with fossil fuel, and eventually it will run out. I think nuclear fuel provides an alternative, and a clean alternative.
We're here at Sizewell in Suffolk to speak to people who work at and live next door to the UK's largest nuclear power station.
Living near a nuclear power station is quite a tranquil scene, quite honestly. We have a beach nearby. I've been here for 40 years. I live within about a mile and a half of the power station, and apart from a little extra traffic coming and going at shift change times and that sort of thing, it's a beautiful Suffolk small town that I live in.
We're low carbon generators. We have a history of safe operation. We have a skilled workforce. We're integrated into the local community. I think we are an excellent future energy source and should be maintained.
I live very near to Sizewell Power Station. I don't like living near to Sizewell Power Station. I want to see them both closed down, and I don't want to see Sizewell C built.
I think replacement build as a minimum for nuclear is what we should be doing in this country.
I was born and bred in this area. I've lived here all my life. I've worked at this power station, Sizewell B, for a number of years. So I have no problems with safety, and I feel that it's a fantastic place to work.
I do believe that in future we shall have to watch closer and closer the amount of emissions that we put into the atmosphere. Nuclear is going to be probably the prime source of really clean energy.
It is very important that we have a mix of energy in this country, but it needs to be a mix of renewable and sustainable energy, and that doesn't include nuclear.
Here at this power station we generate 3% of the UK's electricity. Over the last 12 years we've saved 70 million tonnes of CO2 going into the atmosphere. Yes, you can get those sorts of benefits from renewables, but not to the same scale, at least not so quickly. I think both renewables and nuclear are going to have to be part of an energy mix as we go forward. I'm a strong supporter of both.
The main disadvantage is in people's perception. It's a very, very safe system. We've proved in this country that we can generate electricity from nuclear power very, very safely.
I don't think nuclear should be any contributor to a power supply in this country. I think we should phase out our existing stations and not build any new ones.
I definitely see nuclear power as a power source of the future.
Politicians, academics and industry leaders all have very strong views about the future energy mix for the UK.
I think the three challenges we face, secure supplies, environmentally acceptable supplies and economic supplies, are all pointing in the direction of nuclear power at the moment.
We can't in fact construct a credible scenario where our supplies stay secure, low carbon and internationally competitive without nuclear being somewhere in the mix.
There's growing demand for electricity in our society, as there is in other countries, developing countries in particular. And nuclear provides a large-scale, reliable source of low-carbon electricity.
The scale of nuclear generation, its 24/7 capability, makes it one of the preferred baseload options. It is the only low CO2 emitting baseload option.
At the moment, the world gets 7/8 of its energy from oil, coal and gas, the three major climate change culprits. The rest is equally divided between large-scale hydropower and nuclear power. I think it's impossible to imagine that we should be turning our backs on all of those sources of energy and starting again, when nuclear energy is one of the only two proven technologies that can make a real difference in terms of improving diversity of supply, reducing environmental effects and delivering cost-effective electricity.
You'd have to take half the cars off Britain's road to make the equivalent savings that nuclear already provides in terms of carbon dioxide emissions.
There is still some work to go in public opinion, partly because there is a kind of prejudice in some people's minds against all things nuclear. You might say plutonophobia.
We need to reassure the public that going forward we're going to treat the waste issue responsibly and deal with costs of decommissioning and so on, make sure that those costs are internalised within the industry and don't fall to the taxpayer.
I believe that the majority of people in the United Kingdom are comfortable with the idea of nuclear energy, but the industry must treat people in a fair and grown-up way and without some of the arrogance that frankly I think the industry has treated people with in the past.
It's important we have a diverse source of fuels. We're becoming an import-dependent country now in our energy in the UK, and nuclear has the potential to be a very secure form of baseload power.
We now need certainty, we need as near carbon-free as we can, and we need a degree of stability. On each of these grounds, I think nuclear fills the bill.